a lot of technologies tend to, kind of go through that plateau of uncertainty and then, they kind of die out.
Data integrity and hallucinations. So how do you actually strategically mitigate these risks when GenAI is being used to
So
inform critical decisions?
the more reliable it gets, more people will use it. The more people will use it, the more data you will have in your system for reliability and engagement. So that virtuous network effect should kick in. I absolutely think that's the key.
The companies which fail to embrace GenAI as a strategic shift, what do you feel?
You will not be able to attract the right talent. So I think it will be tough for companies to survive if they don't. But I can just now call this agent.
Sure.
And point it to the data and find the anomalies with
Who is going to draw that line in terms of the innovation or these guardrails not hampering the innovation?
the bar is higher for the right reasons, because there is patient safety and the AI bubble and so on and so forth. In terms of
Is it real though? So if GenAI is indeed a strategic shift, what does that demand from the C-suite and the boardrooms? Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Simulated Reality. And today we have a very special guest joining us, Mr. Ashish Vikram Singh, who is the Vice President of Product Development at Axtria. It's actually his innovation that works behind platforms which is powering, well, very powerful pharma companies across the world. He's a gentleman, and along with him, his team, who actually make sure that complex data is actually converted to innovative solutions. A big round of applause and welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us today, Ashish. How are you doing?
Thank you. That was a great welcome.
I try. Let's start from the start, Ashish, in terms of the fact that I'd like to know a little bit about your entire journey, and then of course we'll get into your entire development of product with Axtria, which is a very crucial thing that I'm pretty sure that you do, because we're dealing with pharma, we're dealing with humans. But your journey, I would like to start there. It's always nice to know.
Sure. So, like you said, I lead the product development at Axtria. I joined Axtria April of 2020 when,
Okay.
all hell had broken loose and, lockdown had started. And,
Weirdly crucial time to
I
join.
joined at the time when I had nothing to do with life sciences. I did not know anybody at Axtria, and we were all working from home. So the first 6 months were pretty challenging. So before Axtria, I was leading the products and platforms for a company called NewGen, which was a pretty good 6-year ride, including an IPO and stuff.
Right.
Before that, I was doing products for a company called Pitney Bowes, which was interesting for very different reasons. They'd done a lot of acquisitions and didn't know what to do with them. They still don't.
Right.
And before that, I was working as an engineer, different companies. But essentially, I've been an enterprise product guy all my life, not really a services person. So that's me professionally.
Quite a journey, I must say. So right off the bat, Ashish, like to understand that how do you understand GenAI not just as a tool but probably as a strategic shift? That's one. And the other bit is that, can you maybe give us an example where GenAI fundamentally changed a strategic decision as far as Axtria is concerned, and not just kind of maybe just optimize the task, a strategic decision influence that probably took place with GenAI. Maybe that would probably set the tone
Sure.
in terms of how we go forward as far as
Sure.
this is concerned.
So coming to the first part of the question that you asked, how is this a strategic shift?
Yes.
Right. I think one of the things that we are learning is that the capability of an agent to work autonomously uh, is doubling every 6-7 months. So what that means is that if you had a, let's say, by the way, today's frontier models, which is the GPT-5s, etc., they can do a 100-step workflow autonomously with 99% reliability.
Fabulous.
Okay, but 2 years back,
This wasn't the case, yeah.
this wasn't the case. It was not even 10 steps. So, so that's a very fundamental shift. What that means is that in terms of product development, we are seeing results which are absolutely fantastic. We are able to ship much faster. Our development velocity is significantly increased. I think there was some statistics about GitHub Copilot, you being used to generate 46% of the code at some companies.
Yeah.
So the entire thing is kind of compressed now in terms of acceleration with quality. That's one. So that's a shift, which means it has why it is important is because it changes the unit economics of how you build software. What a feature which would be costing you, I don't know, 8-9 months in effort would realistically be done in 3 or 4 months,
Which is
which is significant.
significant. Yeah.
So that's one shift. The other shift is that it's also collapsing the boundaries between function.
We have been hearing, the term strategic shift quite a bit. Tend to hear it quite often. It's become a part of our jargon. A lot of times it's hyped, a lot of times maybe it isn't. So that brings me to this. What concrete evidence has it been, as far as you and your team is concerned, Ashish, that has probably led you to believe that, you know, GenAI is now definitely a tool. It's not just a hype factor or quote unquote something where this is in fashion right now and then maybe tomorrow something else.
So I'll tell you what led me to believe that this is not hype, and then I'll give you the evidence, more aggregated
Please,
evidence later.
please.
So what led me to believe is when I started using some of these tools, the quality, and I use Claude AI very regularly. Not that Claude AI is paying me for this, but
No fair.
I almost use it like 30 times a day. These days, any problem or any situation that I have, I first go to Claude, and it understands me because it has all my data. It's secure, of course. The kind of responses and the kind of analysis and the kind of planning that I can do is a degrees of order higher than what I could do last year. So that led me to believe that this is possible. And I've become dangerous, by the way.
Wow.
Because earlier architects could dribble past me that, okay, this is a very technical thing and maybe I don't understand it.
Interesting thought. Yeah,
But
nice.
now I become dangerous because now I can go
You
back
can
and
catch them.
I not only catch them, maybe I can. The level of conversation, the interaction has really, really gone up. So that is what led me to believe that this is a dramatic shift in technology.
Valid point.
It's not just a mobile moment or anything like that. The evidence, the hard evidence, is that we rolled out Cursor and Claude to the entire engineering team. That was also a journey. 2 years back, we were using Windsurf, and we were hesitant to generate production code because it's life sciences, regulations,
Sure.
etc. So we did not use it for coding. We only use it for testing. Impact was so-so, not really anything significant. Then we thought, okay, let's host an LLM in our premise. We used Quen, one of these, which is very good at coding. We hosted it, and we asked, now you can generate code as well because we have hosted the LLM. But the problem was the application layer was not so strong, right? So there was, and we are not that big a company to invest, millions of dollars in building our own stack for development tooling.
Fair enough.
So we moved to finally Cursor and Claude, and we institutionalized it. We
Nice.
actually, created evangelists, leaders, mandated it, created best practices. We are tracking 7 or 8 matrices regularly, and the effects are amazing. The cycle times of requirements and development and testing from idea to deployment has shrunk dramatically, 30%.
Wow. But that actually, since you mentioned this, Ashish, I mean, there, as far as the journey is concerned, there have been, well, switches, quite a few of them, in terms of the usage of the platforms that in today, finally, two of them have been institutionalized. What do you feel, I mean, being somebody who's had such a rich experience as far as product development is concerned, what do you think probably the one mistake that probably companies are making with GenAI in terms of the tools, right? And as far as falling down, dusting oneself off, and going at it again, have there been moments like that at Axtria?
Oh
Where
yeah.
certain times you guys have maybe fumbled the ball.
Oh yeah.
And today you feel, all right, that was important, but today this is the learning.
I think companies are making a mistake that they're, there's a word called capability overhang, which I think the Microsoft CTO used. So basically, the frontier models have a lot of capability, but we are still not using it fully. For example, uh, if you can automate a 10-step workflow with 99% reliability, using an agent, that you can shatter, a lot of the back office processes. But we are still doing incremental improvements on existing applications, which is like, so we are treating GenAI as yet another feature.
Any such use case that you said, okay, wait, this is where we probably fumbled the ball as far as Axtria is concerned, and that just completely changed the mindset of you and your team, and suddenly it just opened up a whole new pathway.
I mean, if you want to talk about the use case, we have this thing called the field reps. They have a lot of questions. They also need to prepare when they're visiting doctors,
Sure.
and so on and so forth. And earlier, you would have the reps would get suggestions that, okay, uh, this specific doctor has, for this specific brand and for this specific indication, last 3 months the scripts are down by 12%, which means he's prescribing 12% less, right? But now, because we don't have the cognitive overload of, oh, we can't analyze so much of data, structured and unstructured. So we can actually figure out changes to pairs. Did the doctor go to a conference? Did he look up, these reports on the internet? And we can synthesize a lot of data which was not possible, and give a very, very rich recommendation to the rep.
Do you feel that that is probably the strategic advantage that it has created, which probably previously was maybe not attainable, or you guys were aspiring for it, but you did not know how to maybe achieve it?
So I think what is happening is companies are focused on writing an agent, okay, do this discrete piece of functionality. But eventually you will run into, for example, let's say a typical company has these 5 or 6 key departments.
Sure.
Each department is doing their own agents. And within each department, each sub-department is doing their own agents,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Now you think of an organization where you have these multiple agents. You could have hundreds, you could have actually thousands,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How do they orchestrate? How do you know who's doing what? How do you govern them? How do you find, if you have to debug across agents, how do you debug them? So there needs to be a very solid
Which is actually the key,
which
to
is
be
the key.
honest.
In fact, MIT, there's a project called Nanda, which has started, which is about the web scale discovery and governance of agents. But that's for more on the consumer side. On the enterprise side, at least we should be able to. It's a much smaller problem, but a more intractable because of security and other
Yes.
aspects.
And do you feel, Ashish, that with something as crucial or as life sciences, where we're dealing pharma, etc., this sort of an orchestration is something which is going to be a path-breaking aspect moving forward? Do you feel?
This is going to be the differentiator, because so if you are not building your agents with a view of that they are part of a system,
Right.
and they are being orchestrated, governed, they also have been tested, the evaluations have been done, I have observability at runtime, on what each agent is doing. If you don't have that, you won't be able to, differentiate yourself, and then the data network effect won't kick in.
Data integrity and hallucinations, Ashish. That's a very important aspect, especially in a space where you're working. So how do you actually strategically mitigate these risks when GenAI is being used
So
to inform critical decisions?
no, absolutely. So that's the big elephant in the room. After all, large language models are probabilistic in nature. How do you tether the probabilistic nature, which is inherently probabilistic?
Correct.
How do you tether it into a predictable sort of a way? And that's, I think, the million-dollar question. And so we are doing it two or three ways. One is, of course,
Have you become a millionaire yet
uh,
by
Axtria
answering that
has.
question?
Axtria has.
Wonderful.
So one of it is that you have to categorize your use cases, right? Some of the use cases are very basic, particularly if the use cases are exploratory. Fair enough. You can go ahead and you can
Yeah,
use
fair.
their.
Makes sense.
There's no
Makes
risk to it.
Yeah.
But if the use cases are, there's a strong, there's a big risk in case something goes wrong. For example, anything to do with the patient is going to be a very risky area. AI has to work in an assistive mode.
I'll request you, Ashish, to maybe elaborate that with an example,
Sure.
because for our viewers,
Sure.
for something as crucial and critical as this, the moment you'll probably give an example, it'll be a lot more easier for everyone to navigate
Sure.
in terms of what you're saying.
So one good use case is that our system generates the incentives for the reps based on their performance.
Sure.
Incentives is dollars, right?
Yes.
And these are millions. I think through our system, some billions of dollars have flowed in as incentives to our system. One mistake, and the pharma commercial head can get fired.
Wow.
Right? It's that serious.
Wow.
Right? So if you use GenAI to kind of figure out what is my performance firstly, why was it low, how do I increase it, and what is my current performance, and what are my projected incentives, let's say, for the next month, right? It has to be done with a level of reliability.
The chief could get fired, for example, as you gave his name, because the stakes are so high.
Right.
So you, as muscle memory, tend to always want to safeguard yourself, and oh my God, are the machines taking over? Is this you get my point? That entire narrative suddenly starts to freak
No,
you out.
absolutely, and that's why technology adoption is easy, but behavioral change is hard. No question about it, and I think that's the reason why a lot of technologies tend to kind of go through that plateau of uncertainty, and then they kind of die out. But here, the difference with GenAI is that if you actually start using it, and you actually learn how to use it, your engagement levels get so high, and the art of the possible becomes so vast. Right. So there's actually a mandate that you need to. So we've done a lot of structural work as well. We have this Axtria Institute, which has created 3 levels of training.
Nice.
All right. Level 1 is basic. Level 2 is slightly advanced. Level 3 is like hardcore. So, and they have designated who needs to go through which. And a lot of the leadership is on level 3.
Wow.
So a lot of people still have, and we can track who's not gone through it. And there's a dashboard, there's a leaderboard. So there's a lot of way we are incentivizing it, gaming it. So I think, but that is the key message. If you haven't used it yourself, you won't know what's possible, and then you won't be able to lead. The first outcome was we saw these 5 or 6 new roles emerging.
Oh, nice.
So one was something called the semantic engineer, right? Another one was called the agent and the LLM engineering, completely new role. Third, which was very interesting, was the eval and the data curator. If you're not doing it, then you may be behind by 3 months today, right? But next year, when the gap increases, then it's very hard to cross that chasm.
Exponential.
It will increase exponentially.
What is that one blunt message that you'd like to give to the leadership? Not just as far as Axtria is concerned, but probably a lot of other companies, because what makes it richer coming from you is the fact that you have come from so many different industries, and now you're in life sciences, and the journey has been so rich. So what's that one blunt message that you'd like to give to the leaders about GenAI that actually just cuts the clutter and the noise and is straight up?
So one message, 2 sections of that message. One would be around use it yourself. B would be understand it deeply. So use it yourself, of course, we've spoken about it a number of times. For whatever, whatever your workflows are, whatever your work is, doesn't matter if it is not coding or not designing, whatever it is, use it. Whether you are an HR leader, or whether you are a finance leader, or whether you are an engineering leader, doesn't really matter. Use it for your workflows. Very, very important, because otherwise, you are going to be out of the proverbial Damocles sword will fall. No question about it. So that's one. The other part is for people who are building with the GenAI, right? For engineering, product, consulting companies, understand it very deeply. What is possible? What are the limitations? How do I make sure that firstly I work around those limitations if I'm building a product or an application, and second is what is the unit economics of it, and then all the other layers will follow. What is the architecture if I have to kind of make it 99.99% resilient? What do I need? And that's when you realize you'll need a lot more engineering than you thought.
Wonderful thoughts. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is, of course, Ashish, the Vice President of Product Development at Axtria, the man who has been leading by example, and that is exactly what he is telling everyone to do. Use it, definitely understand it, because it is making the footprint of the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was great.